Live is local defense attorney and Two on Your Side legal analyst Paul Cambria. So, Paul, this lawsuit is more than 200 pages. I asked you during the commercial break if you made it through all of them. I did not, and I decided not to print them because I like trees. It is lengthy, but it seems to make a relatively simple argument that the former president and his business had a long history of inflating their net worth to get loans or other purposes, like to buy the bills, which is explicitly mentioned in the lawsuit, yet deflated the values when it came to paying taxes. Now, defenders of President Trump will say that that's what happens in real estate, especially in New York City. So what say you as you read this lawsuit? Should the Trumps be worried about this?
Well, certainly they should. There's no doubt about that. There'll be a number of people, including his former lawyer, Cohen. Apparently, that's how this all started as a result of interviews with Cohen. And this authority of the Attorney General allows the Attorney General to look at so-called fraudulent business transactions in New York. And basically what they're saying is there was a repetitious pattern of conduct of inflating the asset value of the Trump holdings, and that this was used to get not only insurance bargains, if you will, but loans and hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's what they're going to try to prove. And again, it's not a criminal case. And in the end, they're looking for certain sanctions. They want $250 million back. But the real capital punishment in here is that they want to ban the Trump organization from doing real estate deals for 5 years, ban them from having any loan transactions with New York banks, and permanently ban the individual Trumps from being either officers or directors of New York corporations.
Paul, the Attorney General said today during some of the Q&A that the misrepresentations of property values were, quote, intentional and deliberate fraud, not an honest mistake. It seems like that's what this boils down to, right? The AG's office will need to prove that this was actually fraud and not an honest mistake. How difficult of a burden is that?
Well, it's difficult in the sense that there are a number of layers here. In other words, there are accounting firms and financial employees in all these various places, and there's lots of differences of opinion as to what things are worth, what property's worth, and so on. Different experts will have different projections on that. But I think what the Attorney General is looking for is repetition. If they can show over and over inflated numbers, they say that that's no longer negligence. That isn't happenstance. When it's over and over and over, the inference is it's intentional. And that'll be their burden here. And like you heard at the opening of this, it's by a preponderance of evidence. It's not criminal, so it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just more likely than not. 51% does it on the burden of proof.
No matter how you slice this and no matter what either side says, it is political, right? You have a former president being sued here by an elected attorney general of the opposite party. Letitia James ran her campaign saying she was going to go after former President Trump. And today, the state Republican Party chairman, Nick Langworthy, who we should mention is also running for Congress, said, quote, "This lawsuit isn't worth the paper it's written on, and all voters of all stripes should be deeply disturbed by this reckless abuse of power that is being wielded purely for political gain." Paul, in your opinion, as you read this, do you think the lawsuit is worth the paper it's written on, or is it clearly just political?
Well, I do think that politics plays a huge role in especially anything that deals with Trump and his ability to, if you will, guide the Republican Party and keep out the Democratic Party. But on the other hand, if I were Trump or any of the people who are listed in his family or part of this lawsuit, I'd be very concerned about it, because this could collapse the whole Trump organization. I mean, not just taking money, $250 million, but stopping them from doing deals, and banks and so on could withdraw their loans. If you have a fraud on a loan, the bank can call that loan. That's the kind of thing that could destroy Trump. So yeah, there are politics involved, but this is a serious situation.
And yeah, Paul, that kind of leads me to my next question. When you look at what sort of the end goal of this lawsuit is, I wonder if it's just essentially to shut down the Trump organization. You mentioned some of the quote unquote remedies that are being sought here, the $250 million paid back, preventing real estate transactions for 5 years. But is the ultimate goal here really, and if it's successful, is it just completely shutting down the Trump organization?
It sure appears that way, because when you take a real estate corporation and say you can't do any more deals for 5 years and you can't have any more loans, which is the lifeblood of real estate development companies, you basically are giving them capital punishment. And I think that's exactly what this is. And the criminal could still be coming. I mean, they're going to refer these things to the feds, to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. There could be criminal charges as well. This is a very serious situation that could result in the total collapse of the Trump organization.
Yeah, you mentioned those referrals. Also referred today to the IRS, and I talked with the IRS in New York City and was told they can't confirm any investigation, but that they get referrals all the time and they look into them. So read into that what you will. We've been talking with Two on Your Side legal analyst Paul Cambria. Paul, always great to get your insight on something like this. Thank you.
My pleasure.